Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine. I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting and the recipe is Khare Masale Ka Gosht. Now what does this basically mean? This means that the spices in this recipe will be a little different from the traditional way. When we talk about cuisine or when we talk about Pakistani food, what we usually do is we basically fry the onion in the clarified butter or oil and then we continue with the recipe. In this recipe the method would be different, and because of the different method the recipe's taste or the flavor would be different also. You need to understand one thing. This recipe has originated from back in the day when there was a lot of game meat available in the market. Now what does game meat basically mean? When we talk about meat in Pakistan, meat is usually coming from, you could say, the cow, the mutton, which is the goat meat, or chicken, or you could also say things that are basically farmed nowadays. Game meat is that meat which actually comes from the time when people used to hunt a lot. Nowadays also people around the world or in Pakistan do consume game meat, for example deer and everything. Why? Because the government gives you a license between a few months in a year and then you can go and hunt a particular animal which is easily consumable in terms of diet. So obviously over the time people have stopped utilizing a lot of venison, also known as deer meat. So now this recipe is replaced with mutton and also with lamb meat. So these are all the things that this recipe is all about. And what are the ingredients of today's recipe? I'll let you know. But remember one thing, all the ingredients are easily available in the market, and this recipe is a recipe which you can have with naan bread, flat bread or some boiled rice. So the ingredients for today are, firstly we'll be using around 500 grams of mutton. This recipe is cooked for 3 people only, that's it. If you want to cook for 6 people, you can automatically increase the amount of mutton, which could be a kilogram then. And then you need around 1 onion, fresh ginger and some fresh coriander leaves. Apart from that, we'll be using a cup of yogurt. If you can't find fresh yogurt, you can also use Greek yogurt. Why? Because it's really close to each other. Then you can use some turmeric, some black pepper, some red dried chili. Then you need some cinnamon sticks, black cardamom, green cardamom. You need some coriander seeds, not powder. And apart from the coriander leaves, you'll be using the seeds also. Then salt to taste, some garlic which we'll finally chop. Then you need some cloves, you need some bay leaves, clarified butter and green chilies. These are the ingredients for today's recipe. Now what do you need to do for this recipe today? So what's the first step? The first step is basically that you need to cook the mutton. If you do not have a pressure cooker, you will be cooking the mutton for at least 45 minutes by adding more water while you're boiling it. But if you have a pressure cooker, you can cook it in within 10 to 12 minutes. So what I'll do first is I'll pick up a pressure cooker and I shall add some water. But you won't be adding a lot of water for this recipe. Why? Because we do need the broth, but we do not need a lot of it. So for example, if it's half a kg of mutton with bone, preferably. Why? Because the bone gives you a nice flavor, the broth which we require. First what we'll do is we shall just add around 2 cups of water. The water goes in. And you need to remember one more thing, I'll just keep it over here. You need to add water to a point that the mutton is basically covered properly, and to a point that the mutton is at least an inch inside the water. So what I'll do is I'll just place it over here. You can take a look. The mutton is almost an inch inside. Just spread it out. Why? Because if it piles over each other, it won't get the perfect heat you really want. Okay, so now I'll keep it over here. We need a few things. I'll just add another half cup. Why? Because I've just realized that around half an inch was still needed for the water level to go up. Okay, so what I'll do first is I'll pick up a garlic. I'll just cut it into 2 pieces. I'll add it in the water over here. Then I'll take some ginger, which is over here. I'll just take around half an inch, keep the remaining on the side, just slice it really fine and add this to the water. It goes in. Now add around, you could say, half a teaspoon of salt. You need to remember one thing, that the water needs to be nicely seasoned. I'll take a piece of green cardamom, which I'll just break first, pick it up and transfer it to the pressure cooker. You'll pick up 1 piece of black cardamom and just 1 stick of cinnamon. That's it. I'll just give it a lid and then I'll let it cook for, let's say, 10 to 12 minutes. Once the whistle starts blowing, that will be the indication that you need to start counting the time. So I'll just shift it over here. I'll increase the heat to full. Once the whistle is on, what will I do? I will reduce the heat to medium and then count 10 minutes. So now, till the time this is cooking, what we'll do is we'll start getting ready with the recipe. So now, firstly, what do you need? You need a fresh pan, which I'll be using right now. I'll keep this over here. I'll increase the heat first, and then we shall get ready with all the other ingredients. Firstly, what do you need? You need to make this paste. Okay, for that, what do you need? You need a bowl. I'll pick up the bowl. I'll keep it over here. Goes here. And we shall make a mix for this recipe. As I told you, it's a little different from the traditional ones. We'll take a bowl of yogurt, preferably fresh yogurt if you can find that. If you can't find fresh yogurt, what you can do is you can also use Greek yogurt. Okay, this is done. Now what I'll do is I'll keep this on the side, just over here. I'll take all the red chilies and I'll start finely chopping them. Keep it close. You'll see that a few pieces will go right or left, but that's part of life. Slowly and gradually. You need to keep it really close so that it's really fine. Reduce the heat over here while the pan is really hot. You don't want to overheat it now. This is done. Now what I'll do is I'll pick up all of this with my knife and I'll transfer it to the bowl of yogurt. This goes in. Take the stick, throw it on the side. Remember not to touch your eyes because it will start burning a lot. On the other hand, what do I need? I need some turmeric powder, a little bit. I need 4 green chilies, which I'll finely chop over here. This is done. Pick up the sticks, throw it in the dustbin, and now just scoop it up slowly and transfer it to this bowl. This is done. Now I'll just mix it up with just, let's say, 2 pinches of salt. I'll pick up a spatula and I'll just first push all the dry spices in and I'll start whipping it. So as you can see, the pressure cooker is almost ready. We shall let that be on the stove. Now the problem, or you could say the reason I've done this is because if I would have added all the yogurt and all the spices over here, what would have happened is the flavor of the recipe would have changed completely. Right now, when the chilies and salt is sitting in the yogurt, what's happening basically is that it's giving out its flavor in the yogurt. The whole texture, the whole, you could say the aroma of the ingredients are changing, and once they hit the pan later on, then you'll find that there's a difference over there also. Now for this recipe, you really need the mutton to be cooked properly. Until the time it's not cooked, we cannot go on towards the next step. Now as you can see, this part of the pressure cooker is up. Now I'll start counting 10 minutes and then we shall start doing the other things. Now what we have to do is we have to go for a short break. Why? Because once we're back from the break, the mutton would be ready and then I'll let you know what to do next. Just keep watching Indus Cuisine. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, lovely people. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break I did nothing. I just waited for you, and the 2 only basic things I did was I just waited for the pressure cooker to cool down, and when it did, I just took out all the broth over here and I kept it on the side, and on the other hand I just took out the mutton which I've cooked completely and I've kept it over here. So now what we'll do is we shall start cooking for this recipe. For that I do not need the mutton right now. What I need is I need the pan to be super hot, and once the pan is super hot, which it is, why? Because it was on the heat for the past, you could say 5 minutes, but on the pilot, now I'll add the clarified butter. Now you might be thinking so much of clarified butter, but as I say, for this recipe you do need the clarified butter to be almost 1 cup. This is done. When you're done, keep this on the side. You don't need it anymore, and keep your counter completely clean. Okay, this is done. Keep it over here. And now let's start cooking. Once this comes to heat completely, which it almost has, and once the clarified butter melts completely, we shall continue with the next step. For that, firstly what you need to remember this recipe is all fried ingredients. So I'll pick up all the coriander seeds, I'll transfer them on the board, and I shall just start pressing them like this. Now once you press the coriander seeds, what happens is the flavor, the aroma is released nicely. This is done. Just pick everything up and transfer it to the oil over here. I want to fry all of this so that the aroma of the coriander seeds is released fairly into the clarified butter. This goes on the side. Just increase the heat now and let the seeds fry. On the other hand, what do I need is I need some garlic, but the garlic will be half finely chopped and half shall be finely sliced. This is done. Keep it close. Pick it up, transfer it in the clarified butter, and now just finely slice 3 pieces of garlic. This is done. The reason behind that is I want this texture to be maintained, in which the oil gets a nice flavor by the finely chopped ones, and when you eat this recipe or have it, you get a few slices of the nice garlic in your bite. Okay, this is done. Just tilt it, pick this up and start spreading it around. This is done. If you see any pieces of garlic sticking to each other, the slices I mean, just spread them out. You want to fry them equally, remember that. And now on the other hand, just clean up the counter, keep it on the side and start with the recipe. Okay, I'll take 2 pieces. Now these are 3, why? Because one is small. So 2 large pieces, and if it's medium in size, it will be 4. And if you have 1 large piece of bay leaf and 2 small, then it will be 3. I'll fry all of this so that it gets a nice aroma, because without the aroma, this recipe is nothing. On the other hand, the remaining green chilies will be deep fried. For that, I shall just take the sticks out. That could be the entry point for the clarified butter also, and I'll just make a slit on the green chili so that it absorbs a little bit of clarified butter and it is cooked till the core. This is done. Transfer this over here, tilt the pan and just deep fry this. I want the garlic to get light brown. That will give a nice texture to it, and as you can see, it is turning light brown. The water that's coming out is basically from the green chilies. Why? Because the green chili has natural moisture, and that moisture is basically coming and popping out. The color of the green chili is also changing, and now I shall just quickly reduce the heat. The heat has been reduced. Now what you'll do is, because the garlic is light brown, as you can see, just add the mutton. And cook it. Now what I'll do is I'll just keep this on the side. I'll give this a lid and I'll let the mutton cook for at least, let's say, 2 minutes on low heat. So while this is cooking, what I'll do is I'll just clean my board, throw everything in the dustbin over here, and we'll pick up a piece of onion. Cut the roots so that it doesn't stick together, throw this on the side and finely slice this. This is done. Turn it. Take a look over here. And this is done. Okay, so now what you need is you need to push all of this on the side. Pick up the black cardamom pieces, just press them like this, open the pod, and pick it up and toss it in the oil. This will give it a nice flavor. I'll tilt it over here and I'll just fry it so that the flavor is nicely released in the oil. Okay, this is done. The lid goes back on. Now remember, you will not at all add the water right now or the yogurt. I'll tell you when to do it. It will take a little bit of time, but before that, you take the green cardamom and you just break them and yet again add them where the oil is. Why? Because you want to fry it. I've just tilted the pan for you to show you how I'm completely nicely frying it. Okay, this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall just change the side of the mutton pieces. Why? Because you want the mutton to cook on both the sides, or you could say fry on both the sides. You can see you have the ribs, you have the champs. We call the champs the ribs basically over here. Change it and let it cook. Okay, the lid is off, but the lid goes back on. Now the things which we need some cinnamon, we need some cloves, we need the black pepper, we need the turmeric powder, we need salt, and the rest of the things go on this side. Okay, now what I'll do is I shall just increase the heat to full and I'll start adding the water in it. Why? Because I want to dilute it. Okay, the water goes in. And on high heat, I'll keep cooking it. And now I'll take another ladle and I'll add it over here. Now as you can see that there's around a cup of clarified butter and around a cup of water, but the water was added like in sequence, like less by less. Now what I'll do is I'll transfer all the onions into this so that the onions do not fry but get a nice partial boiling and frying effect. That is what I want from this recipe. Pick up the ladle, mix it up, and now let the onions boil. Now what I'll do is I'll pick up some salt, around half a teaspoon, add it, and this is done. Keep this over here, pick it up again. Now give this a lid. The lid goes on back. And now we'll cook this for around 2 to 3 minutes so that the onions get nice and soft. Keep the heat medium, high, not too low, and let it cook. So till it's cooking, we'll just clean up over here and then I'll let you know what to do next. So as you can see, everything is done now, and over here precisely, if you really look close, the water has evaporated. Why? Because the bubbles are thick and slow. When there is water, the bubbles will be much faster as compared to right now. Okay, now we need to start cooking with this recipe even more. Now you won't be adding the water goes on the side. If you want to save this water or add some black pepper and some, you could say, salt, you can have it like a soup. It's really good for you and it's really good for your throat. It's actually called yakhni in our language, and we give it to people when they have a fever or they have a bad throat or a runny nose. This is basically completely natural. It's a natural remedy, and everyone knows black pepper is good for health. On the other hand, now what I'll do is I'll just pick up the remaining turmeric powder, which goes in. I'll take up the cloves, I'll add in the oil, I'll take the cinnamon sticks, I'll add it over here, and then I'll take the black pepper, but I'll put this over here. Now why have I put the black pepper over here? I'll let you know, but first let me displace the turmeric in the oil so that it starts frying. Okay, now slowly and gradually just press it down. Why am I doing this? So that you get this nice flavor. This is done. Push it on the side, pick it up over here, and now add all the black pepper in the pan. Now I'll mix it properly. This recipe is not very gravy oriented. It's more towards the dry side. And when it comes to Pakistani cooking, we do have, or we do enjoy a lot of, you could say, things which has a lot of clarified butter, and it's because we have a very tough life in terms of work-wise. We work a lot, so we burn a lot also. Now all these things should be pushed over here. There should be a little bit of salt on the side always, and now we need the ginger. The ginger needs to be used, so what I'll do is I'll just cut this and keep it over here and make these thin slices. There's only black pepper on the board, so it's completely fine, don't worry. Keep the ginger slices here. And now finely slice it. Pick this up. You don't need this anymore. Keep it over here. Keep the ginger close with each other. Keep an eye over there also, and just go in really smoothly. Always keep it really thin. Now add all of the ginger into the oil. You want to add it over here and fry it for, let's say, around a minute. I'll place it in the oil so that it releases this nice flavor. Mix it up. And now add a ladle of the mutton broth. Give it a lid so that the ginger releases its flavor nicely. And now just pick up some coriander, which is over here resting. This is a big bunch, you don't need all of it. And now we shall finely chop it. So I'll turn it around. The sticks will go in, so I'll start chopping from the sticks, but really, really fine. And this end part goes in the dustbin. This is done, take the lid off. The ginger is nice and soft. The coriander goes in, the oil, mix it up again. This is done. Now what you need is you need to clean up and let this cook for a minute at least, and then I'll let you know what to do next. So as you can see, the mutton is cooked nicely. Now what I need to do is, in the end, as I told you, we need to add the yogurt and all the spices I've added over here. So on high heat, we'll add all the yogurt. Try taking out as much as you can and reducing the wastage. Cook it on high heat for a minute only, that's it, so that the yogurt evaporates. But mix it properly in the clarified butter. I'll cook this for a minute now, and then I'll dish it out in front of you. Don't go anywhere, keep watching Indus Cuisine. As you can see, today's recipe is ready. It was delicious, it was very easy. I've tried it a bit, and I hope you liked today's episode. I'll see you in another episode of Indus Cuisine. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.